Hello there, my fellow viewers. Welcome back to the channel for another episode of What If. As you saw the title and thumbnail, of course, I'll be talking about Pink Floyd. Why am I talking about Pink Floyd at the moment? Well, what if they go on the road for one last time in 1983 to promote the final cut as their final hurrah as a band? So, let's take a look how the tour came about and doesn't make its success from their predecessor, The Wall. Before I talk about it, this is a what-if scenario, and of course, this tour never happened. These stories are fan-made, written by me. That's all I gotta say. If you want to criticize me, go ahead and do so. So, let's get to the video. So, after the movie, The Wall, which was commercially success, despite their tour didn't get their revenue back, however, Roger, David, and Nick were demented to create something even better than The Wall. However, they've been struggling to find a clear direction for the next project. Eventually, an idea became to take a shape that never came fruition. Instead, they decided to use songs that hasn't made into the Wall album. David said to Roger, "If these songs weren't good enough for the Wall, why are they good enough now?" They had dispute over which songs should be included on Spare Bricks, but the project was ultimately scrapped. Instead, they decided to create a complete new album from scratch. However, when Roger determined to create a concept album that reflects his frustrations with the state of the world, the final cut begins not as a full Pink Floyd album, but as a continuation of the themes explored from the Wall album, namely war, politics, and personal loss. Roger's vision is dark, filled with a personal and political anger, aimed at exploring the facility of war, especially in the aftermath of the Falklands conflict and the continuation tenets of the Cold War. Although David Gilmour is still on board, his relationship with Roger has become more strained over the years. Roger is the clear creative force of the band, and David feels sidelined. Nick Mason, even supportive drummer, stays loyal to the band, providing steady beats. He too feels like a bystander in making of this very personal album. As the album progresses in the studio, the creative tenets is palatable. David is not really happy with lack of collaboration and Tennant's flair between him and Roger during the mixing of the tracks. In fact, several songs on the album are argued over which songs will be in the album or not, but Roger won, of course, and he put a complete creative control into this album, and David fights for the inclusion of some of his own ideas. When the album takes shape, Roger's sense of anger and loss premise each track. The lyrics are cutting in reflecting his grief over his father's death during World War II, his disillusionment with the political landscape, and his growing resentment towards David's relentless to embrace Roger's vision. In late of 1982 to early 1983, Roger, David, and Nick decided how they would promote the record. As a band, and David bets Roger to take the final cut on the road if it goes success. And the two made a deal. The original plan is going on the road from February to April of 1983. However, the tour got extended as a popular demand grew, and it goes all the way through the entire of 1983. The new legs would begin from June to November, and it could be the nail in the coffin as their final run as a band in London's Earl's Court as a residency in December of that year. As the Final Cut tour is coming together and set to kick things off in February, they need to do some promotions. They push it forwards with plans for a huge promotional campaign. The album is halted by some critics as a return of the conceptual heights of The Wall, while others criticize as being too blank, too personal, and too political. However, the album's release caused a friction with the band immediately. David is frustrated by the lack of creative input he had in the final product. Attendance bubbled to the surface during interviews and press events. Despite this, the album debuts at #1 on the charts. Much to the surprise of the public, it seems that the final chapter of Pink Floyd's story is been written with attendance sense of urgency, drawing in listeners with its raw emotions and bleak vision of the world. While they're promoting for the album and their forthcoming global tour, Roger, David, and Nick, despite their palpable tense between them, agreed to promote the album through interviews and appearances. During interviews, Roger comes across as impassioned and uncomfortable, while David struggles to hold up his frustrations. Fans started to notice something between the band members, and rumors swirl around that this will be their last album/tour as Pink Floyd. As the final cut comes to, continue performing well on the charts, Roger and David are pushed to make a decision. Do they do the tour or do they break up? They realize that this is a high likely their final chance to have a proper send-off to the band forces them into a compromise. After so many discussions, they'd agreed to embark on what will have been their final tour as their farewell. There's an understanding that this is their final hurrah, but the tour will be incredibly emotionally changed. They're going to have to confront their past, their differences, and the end of the band. Despite their differences, the bandmates agreed to give it for one last shot. Although there's a general feeling that will be a goodbye, not just to the fans, but to each other. The band begins rehearsals for the Final Cut tour, but the process is fraught with tensions. Roger urged to assist to control the show with their set list by centered around with the Final Cut, and that will be performed from the beginning to end. But David and Nick both resist the idea, pushing back, but decide to add songs from the Final Cut album and do the hits, included ones they haven't performed in a long time. However, they understand that this is likely the final time they'd share the stage as Pink Floyd. Meanwhile, the stage production is planned to be massive. This new tour will continue with a huge cinematic approach, full of political imagery, fire projections, and a giant wall to symbolize the fractured state of the band. The band knows that this tour will be the most dramatic performance of their career. The tour kicks off in February at Houston, then it would continue to Canada, Europe, Australia, and Asia. However, 45 days after the tour kicked off, in late March, they found out of a popular demand announcement of the tour. However, the final 5 dates in Europe and Australia and Asia hasn't performed yet. They decided to announce additional dates in some point later in that year. The tour continued from June to the US, July in Asia, September in Australia and New Zealand, October back to the US for the final time and Canada, and finally in November will be Europe. As December came around, when the tour reaches its peak, Pink Floyd arrives at Earl's Court in London for their final shows after 2 shows from November 30th and 31st to continue as a 13-night residency. The band members understand that this is their final chance to make an impact on their home turf. For the final performance on December 29th, 1983, Pink Floyd goes all out, delivering a breathtaking show that incorporates the most dramatic elements of the tour. Fully visual spectacle, intense lighting, and emotional final performance. The crowd is enraptured by the sense of fatality that lingers over the night. The band delivers an unforgettable performance, but the air is thick with the realization that this is the end. As the final encore, Roger, David, and Nick exchange brief, almost awkward glance. No words are spoken. The crowd cheers wildly, sensing that something momentarily has just happened. As the night fades away, the band exits the stage together for one last time. They never speak of Pink Floyd again in public. No big press conferences, no grand statements, just the quiet realization that the journey is over. Now, let's move on to the tour dates and set list for the Final Cut tour. So, we kick off in Houston in the United States from February 5th, then Denver, February 6th, Los Angeles, February 8th, Oakland, February 10th, San Francisco, February 11th, Phoenix, February 15th, Boston, February 17th, Dallas, February 21st, Portland, February 22nd, Mississippi, February 23rd, New York, February 24th and 25th, and Baltimore, February 28th. Then we move to March in Canada and Europe. Vancouver, March 4th, Montreal, March 6th, Toronto, March 7th, Munich, March 10th, Budapest, March 11th, Amsterdam, March 13th, Dublin, March 16th, Cardiff, March 17th, Glasgow, March 18th, London, March 20th, 21st, 23rd, and 24th, Hamburg, March 26th, Berlin, March 28th, Oslo, March 30th. Then we move to Perth in April 5th, Brisbane, April 6th, Adelaide, April 7th, Sydney, April 8th, 10th, and 11th, Singapore, April 14th, Bangkok, April 15th, Manila, April 9th, Yokohama, April 20th, Tokyo, April 22nd, 24th, and 25th, and Osaka, April 26th. Then we move on to the next leg of the tour that will be in the US. We start off at Buffalo, June 1st and 2nd, Denver, June 4th, Atlantic City, June 5th, Atlanta, June 6th, Kansas City, June 8th, Dallas, June 10th, Houston, June 12th, 13th, New York, June 15th and 16th, Chicago, June 20th, 21st, and 22nd, and San Diego, June 24th. Then back to Asia, kicking off in Tokyo, July 6th, 7th, and 9th. Then Bangkok, July 14th, 16th, and 17th. Then Manila, July 19th and 20th. Singapore, July 22nd, and Hong Kong, July 23rd and 24th. Then to Australia for their second leg, and New Zealand, the first one. Perth, September 10th. Brisbane, September 11th and 13th. Adelaide, September 14th. Sydney, September 15th, 17th, 19th, and 20th. Melbourne, September 22nd and 23rd. Christchurch, September 25th, and Auckland, September 29th and 30th. Now to the final leg for the US. We start off at Philadelphia, October 5th, then Washington, October 6th, Chicago, October 8th, Pittsburgh, October 10th, Kansas City, October 13th and 14th, Buffalo, October 16th, New York, October 17th, 19th, and 20th, Atlantic City, October 21st, Atlanta, October 22nd, Miami, October 24th, Toronto, October 26th, Ottawa, October 28th, and Montreal, October 30th. Now moving on to the final dates, that'll be in Europe in November, starting off in Rome in November 14th, Oslo, November 15th, Paris, November 17th, Hamburg, November 19th, Copenhagen, November 21st, Gothenburg, November 22nd, Madrid, November 25th, Athens, November 26th, Dublin, November 28th, and finally London, November 30th and 31st. Then to the Earl's Court residency in London will be December 1st, 3rd, 4th, 6th, 9th, 11th, 12th, 17th, 18th, 20th, 22nd, 27th, and 29th. Now to the set list. Throughout the tour, some songs has a different arrangement where they will be placed or removed to add a few fan favorites or to add a few from the final cut. So in the February set list, it says starting performing the new songs of their forthcoming album, The Final Cut. So we started off with When Tigers Broke Free, Your Possible Past, The Hero's Return, One of These Days, Welcome to the Machine, Time, Get Your Filthy Hands Off My Desert, Southampton Dock, Shine on You Crazy Diamond, Pigs, What Shall We Do Now, Money, If, Not Now John, Have a Cigar, The Gunner's Dream, The Final Cut, Wish You Were Here, Us and Them, Any Color You Like, Another Brick in the Wall Part 1, The Happiest Days of Our Lives, Another Brick in the Wall Part 2, and Two Suns in the Sunset. Then, the time of the album release, that will be When the Tigers Broke Free, The Post-War Dream, The Thin Ice, The Happiest Days of Our Lives, Another Brick in the Wall Part 2, One of These Days, Southampton Dock, The Fletcher Memorial Home, The Final Cut, Mother, Pigs, Have a Cigar, Wish You Were Here, Sheep, In the Flesh, Shine on You Crazy Diamond, On the Run, Dogs, Time, The Great Gig in the Sky, Money, Brain Damage, Eclipse, Two Suns in the Sunset, Uncomfortably Numb. Then to the April songs, we got Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun, In the Flesh, The Thin Ice, The Happiest Days of Our Lives, Another Brick in the Wall Part 2, One of These Days, Pigs, Money, Have a Cigar, The Hero's Return, Wish You Were Here, Hey You, Shining You Crazy Diamond, The Gunner's Dream, Time, The Great Gig in the Sky, Paranoid Eyes, Get Your Filthy Hands Off My Desert, Southampton Dock, The Fletcher Memorial Home, The Final Cut, and Two Suns in the Sunset. Then to June, we start off with Speak to Me / Breathe, The Thin Ice, The Happiest Days of Our Lives, Another Brick in the Wall Part 2, Mother, Have a Cigar, Wish You Were Here, Money, What Shall We Do Now, Young Lust, Not Now John, Sheep, Welcome to the Machine, One of These Days, Dogs, Pigs, Shine on You Crazy Diamond, The Great Gig in the Sky, The Gunner's Dream, Comfortably Numb, Any Color You Like, and Brain Damage and Eclipse. Then to July, we got In the Flesh, Shining You Crazy Diamond, Happiest Days of Our Lives, Another Brick in the Wall Part 2, One of These Days, What Shall We Do Now, Young Lust, Have a Cigar, Sheep, Speak to Me, Breathe, Money, Pigs, Not Now, John, The Great Gig in the Sky, The Gunner's Dream, Run Like Hell, Comfortably Numb, and Echoes. Then September, we got Set the Controls of the Heart of the Sun, Hey You, Welcome to the Machine, The Gunner's Dream, Paranoid Eyes, On the Run, Time, Have a Cigar, Not Now, John, Shine on You Crazy Diamond, When the Tigers Broke Free, The Possible War Dream, Your Possible Past, One of the Few, The Hero's Return, Atomic Heart Mother, The Great Gig in the Sky, One of These Days, Us and Them, Any Color You Like, Comfortably Numb, and Echoes. Then to October, we got Hey You, Happiest Days of Our Lives, Another Brick in the Wall Part 2, Mother, Your Possible Past, Goodbye Blue Sky, The Gunner's Dream, The Hero's Return, Have a Cigar, What Shall We Do Now, In the Flesh, Money, Wish You Were Here, Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun, If, Dogs, Time, The Great Gig in the Sky, Brain Damage and Eclipse, and Two Suns in the Sunset. Then to the final dates of the tour, that'll be November, we have In the Flesh, Mother, Shine on You Crazy Diamond, Have a Cigar, Wish You Were Here, Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun, Your Possible Past, Southampton Dock, The Fletcher Memorial Home, The Final Cut, Sheep, Happiest Days of Our Lives, Another Brick in the Wall Part 2, Dogs, On the Run, Time, Money, Not Now John, Run Like Hell, Us and Them, and Two Suns in the Sunset. Then, to the residency songs in December, we have In the Flesh, The Thin Ice, Happiest Days of Our Lives, Another Brick in the Wall Part 2, Mother, Get Your Filthy Hands Off My Desert, Southampton Dock, Pigs on the Wing, Dogs, Welcome to the Machine, Wish You Were Here, Shining You Crazy Diamond, Speak to Me and Breathe, Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun, Pigs, On the Run, Time, Have a Cigar, The Great Gig in the Sky, Money, Us and Them, Brain Damage and Eclipse, and finally, Comfortably Numb. By the end of the 1983 shows, Pink Floyd has closed its chapter. The Final Cut tour and album represent both the end of the era and the pinnacle of the band whose influence will continue to be felt for decades. The band's legacy becomes one of revolution, artistry, and raw emotion, as one of the most impactful bands in history. Well, in rock history, I meant. The Final Cut farewell tour is remembered as one of the most poignant and emotional Changes tours ever. Fans who witness it remembers the bitter sweetness of the performances, and the final shows at Earl's Court became a legendary moment in rock history. The band is gone, but their music lives on forever. Or would they come back? Who knows? So that is it for What If on Pink Floyd. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Comment, like, and subscribe. If you haven't hit the notification bell yet, please do so, because if you don't want to miss any single video that'll be upload and release. So, anyway, take care of yourselves, stay safe, until next time, see you later.